Hey everybody, welcome back to Lettermen Row. I'm Austin Ward. That's Spencer Holbrook. That's Jeremy Birmingham, and it is tight ends week at Lettermen Row. Appreciate Byers Auto as always for helping us preview the Ohio State roster as we go through this offseason. And why even wait? Is this the year that they throw to the tight end?
It has to be the year, right? If it's not this year, then when? Listen, the Ohio State tight end group is one of the best in the country, top to bottom. Complete players. You have Luke Farrell, who's a dynamite player. You have Jeremy Ruckert, who is a stretch the field type. You have Jake Hausman, who's a big-bodied blocker type. You have Cade Stover, who we don't know what he can do exactly. We watched him in 2 practices in the spring, and he looked like a machine at tight end. And then you have Joe Royer, who I think is going to be a really interesting puzzle piece to see how they play him, because Royer is a guy that could be all those things. And Kevin Wilson and Ryan Day have a commitment to throwing the ball to the tight end. I mean, I almost said the S word, sorry. But we watched, again.
Well, you get fired up about tight ends.
We watched 2 practices, right? And Justin Fields was throwing it to the tight end almost every single play. So is that just what you do in practice because it's a decoy? I don't know. But it's a talented group.
I've asked Kevin Wilson about that in the past because there have been several practices that we've watched over the last few years where the tight ends completely dominate. Well, is that scripted? Or is that just the specific plays you put in for that day? Why does it work? Well, also these guys are really good athletes, and so sometimes defenses are doing specific things to set it up, and we see a limited sample size. But the counter to that is I say, well, they can obviously do it. I mean, Jeremy Ruckert, you're not going to find a more talented target anywhere, and that one-handed catch that he had in the Big Ten title game is just one example of that. Maybe that's what gets in the back of Justin Fields' mind. Like, I can trust this guy to go up and make a play. He's big. He's fast. He's going to be in matchups that are going to be favorable. Maybe, but I don't know the amount of catches he's going to get.
All Justin Fields has to do is put it in the vicinity, and Jeremy Ruckert can probably catch it. He's known to do that in high school. We talked to his high school coach a few weeks ago. He's obviously can do it in the Big Ten championship game, so This year should be no different. Jeremy Ruckert can be a really important piece to this offense. I think Luke Farrell is the one that just nobody really talks about. He's really, really good at what he does. If they need a blocker on the field, Luke Farrell can be the guy. They don't have to sub in Jake Hausman or Jeremy Ruckert. If he needs to catch a touchdown pass, he will. We saw how physical he can be doing that against Michigan State. I think Luke Farrell can be a really, really big piece. I think he will probably lead the tight ends in receptions, and it might be more this year than it was last year. Maybe this is the year, Berm.
There's an old adage in football, right? The tight end is always open.
Oh, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, so I think so much about what a tight end is able to do in an offense is based on the quarterback, right? Because the tight end is a check down option. It is a reading a defense and finding your open guy option. What I think is most interesting about the tight end position this year, and why I think it is the year, is because you have a quarterback of Justin Fields' magnitude who is back for his second year, right? Dwayne Haskins was a guy that you think that type of quarterback would use the tight end a lot, but he had 3 very secure security blankets in Johnny Dixon and Paris Campbell and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, you'd think that the development in his game should allow him to start using the middle of the field more often, and that's why I think the tight ends are going to be more involved, aside from the fact that they are a much more athletic group now than we've seen at Ohio State in recent years. And let's not kid ourselves. The Buckeyes still put tight ends into the NFL.
Yeah, I was going to say Luke Farrell is going to make money for a long time, I think, at the next level. You look, Jeff Hireman is still collecting checks.
Nick Van Nett, right.
Like, they didn't have to catch a bunch of footballs at Ohio State. Would they have wanted to? I mean, we've asked Jake Stoneburner that a number of times. Of course, they want the football. I think there's also a realization that Ohio State, when it talks about its tight ends, when Ryan Day talks about them, when Kevin Wilson talks about them, when Justin Fields talks about them, they're putting 2 of them out there. They've got a lot of these 2 tight end packages. They're really important in the blocking game. And I know that sounds like an excuse not to throw them the football, but the Ohio State offense really wouldn't work the way it does without those guys on the field. So I feel like I go through this every summer. Could they get more catches? Could they score more touchdowns? Absolutely. Is it necessary for that to be part of the Ohio State offense? I'm not sure that it is.
Right. What they're doing now is necessary for the Ohio State offense, which, as it turns out, is a pretty good offense. So you have to ask, like, okay, so we add this part in. Is it more valuable to throw the ball to Luke Farrell or to Garrett Wilson? You know, like what if you're breaking down and you have a chance to score on per play, your higher percentage is probably throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson.
Right.
So, but Luke Farrell, in his role as a blocker and his role as an outlet guy, like that changes things, right? But those guys change the offense between the 20s for sure. And the Buckeyes have a lot of them to throw the ball to. I'm super excited to see what Cade Stover can develop into. The first practice that we saw with Cade Stover here in 2019, Kevin Wilson's like, I'm going to get that guy in my room. I'm going to get that guy in my room. And he's been talking about it for years. Even when Cade was being recruited, he would tell other coaches, I'm going to get him in my room.
Wasn't he not allowed to recruit him? Wasn't that the story?
They wouldn't let Kevin Wilson start talking to him. Because
then they go through 2 practices, and he looks like Dallas Clark. I mean, he's catching everything. So, I mean, it's interesting that you put him into the offense. Kevin Wilson wanted him in the offense. You put him in the offense, and he starts catching everything.
Yeah, I really thought that, that defensive line move was going to stick for him, and I was, fascinated to watch him become that. But I didn't really, I guess, recognize how much he touched the football in high school, that success at running back, and that showed when, again, it was one day in March, but he got the football in his hands. He looked natural, looked like he was back, like looking like a running back out of the backfield, and he's obviously much bigger now than he was then, but he's got a lot of – I've heard people in the Woody say that they think that guy can be an NFL tight end.
I also think he's got a great tight end name. Cade's like, that's just a good tight end name. So I think everything is working.
That's some hard-hitting analysis.
That's some great analysis right there.
Everything
this is why you come to Lettermen Row to hear about tight end names.
Everything is working in Cade Stover's favor.
No, there's no doubt about it. But except for the fact that he has Luke Farrell and Jake Hausman and Jeremy Ruckert ahead of him.
Would you say it's a blessing for him, though? He gets to learn from tight ends who have been in college and done tight end things in college rather than...
But the other blessing is that it's possible, or maybe even likely, that Farrell, Hausman, and Ruckert are all gone after this year. So
exactly.
Cade Stover's in a position then where it's essentially just him and Joe Royer and the 2021 tight end commit Sam Hart at the position. Now Cade Stover is your premier option at tight end a year from now. So, when Cade, I didn't think we meant to talk about Cade this much, but when the move
we
happened,
know what the other guys can do.
When the move happened, when the trade happened from Cormonte Hamilton to the defensive line and Stover back to over to tight end, the idea was like, I can be an NFL guy, and the road to getting on the field was a lot clearer there than at defensive end, where you're competing against Javonte Jean-Baptiste and Tyler Friday and all these guys, Tyreek Smith and Zach Harrison, and Noah Potter, tons of guys that you're like, ooh, how do I navigate that? And right now at tight end, there's a pretty clear path to not just playing time, but like being the starter at tight end a year from now.
All right, how many catches, how many touchdowns for the tight ends?
I'm going to go like 45 for the group. I think 45 for the group is pretty reasonable. And let's say 8 or 9 touchdowns.
I'm going to go 60 catches.
Oh, my goodness. What?
And I'm going to say 14 touchdowns.
Wow.
Because I think
60?
I think Jeremy Ruckert is going to have 6 or 7 touchdowns by himself. I think Luke Farrell will be in that same realm. And then I think you'll see a guy like Hausman or Stover pick up 1 or 2 as well.
So is this based off of 15 games, so 4 catches a game for tight ends?
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable, I guess.
That's manageable. I still think that they'll wind up...
They're all on my side. They've come around.
I still think they'll wind up...
Welcome.
I said it was reasonable, but I'm not predicting that because the safe bet is 2 a game.
Tua's in the NFL.
We saw...
I know what's going to happen. We've seen this song and dance.
Tua's in the NFL. He plays quarterback for the Dolphins.
I will say this, though.
You needed to come back twice to make sure I got the punt?
Yeah.
The only downside to all this tight end talk is we only saw 2 practices. And Ohio State has really good cornerbacks, so Justin Fields was throwing a lot of checkdowns. So that's the only downside I see.
The tight end is always open. It doesn't matter what level of football you're playing. Here's a hot tip for you young quarterbacks out there. The tight end is always open.
All right, the tight end conversation is now closed. The positional preview brought to you by Byers Auto. Berm could keep going on this, but he's just going to keep saying that the tight ends are always open and predicting 60 more catches. That's Spencer Holbrook. That's Berm. I'm Austin Ward. This has been Tight End Week at Lettermen Row. Stay with us. We'll be back with another positional preview brought to you by Byers Auto next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and you know we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.